Something is happening in the world, and almost no one notices. The ancient prophecies are moving once again, and what once seemed distant, symbolic, or merely religious begins to take shape before our eyes. The nations are restless. The order that sustained the planet is beginning to collapse, and while everyone looks at wars, crises, and politics, there is a sound that almost no one hears, the sound of a clock that is about to stop. But this clock does not mark hours. It marks eras. Every empire that fell, every nation that rose, every sign in the sky, all of it was part of the same rhythm. Time has always been moving towards the same point, the end. And today, that hand is on its final cycle. The events the prophets saw thousands of years ago are being fulfilled, one after another, with a precision the world calls coincidence, but the Bible calls fulfillment. And when this clock makes its final beat, time will cease to exist. Because what comes next will no longer be history. It will be judgment. This is the sound that comes from the Valley of Redemption. Few people understand this, but all of human history is like a countdown clock. From the moment God breathed the breath of life into the first man, time began to turn, not in hours, but in eras. Every generation was a second of this invisible clock, advancing towards the moment the prophets called the end of times. The Bible shows a pattern that repeats itself. 6,000 years of human history followed by 1,000 years of rest, the seventh day of creation. Peter wrote that one day is like 1,000 years to the Lord. And this is not a metaphor. It is a timeline. If the first day began with Adam, the sixth is ending now. From Adam to Abraham, from Abraham to David, from David to Christ, each period fulfilled an exact purpose. When Christ came, the clock did not stop. It simply entered its final rotation. For centuries, it seemed silent. But in the 20th century, something changed. Israel, the nation forgotten for almost 2,000 years, came back into existence. Jerusalem, the divided city, was restored. And what the world called coincidence, prophecy called fulfillment. The alarm of the prophetic clock began to sound. History repeats itself because time does not belong to man. It belongs to God. Every empire, every revolution, and every war follows the same rhythm, the same plan that never fails. Now the sound is louder. The prophecies are aligning with frightening precision. What once was a promise is now news. Many still do not realize it, but time is not moving forward. It is moving back. Back to the point where everything began. And when this final rotation is completed, the clock will stop. Because what comes next is no longer history, it is eternity. The signs of the end did not appear suddenly. They came gradually, like warnings the world preferred to ignore. First, morality lost its shape. What was once shame became a source of pride. What was sacred became a joke. Pulpits stopped confronting sin and began selling comfort. Faith ceased to be sacrifice and became a product. The Apostle Paul had already warned, in the last days, people will be lovers of themselves, disobedient, ungrateful, and without natural, affection. Today, these words no longer sound like prophecy, but like a description of what we see every day. Cities are full of lights, but empty of purpose. We live surrounded by information but lacking truth. What was firm has become opinion. What was eternal has been traded for something that shines for a moment and then disappears. Corruption is no longer only moral. It has become structural. The world is being prepared. Surveillance systems, digital currencies, global control. What many call progress is in reality the foundation of the empire that will rise against God. The prophetic stage is already set. Even nature participates in this warning. Lands that never trembled now move. The sea advances over cities. Fires and storms multiply. It is the planet in labor pains, about to witness the birth of judgment. But there is a detail that almost no one notices. The signs are not the end. They are the countdown. Every war, every earthquake, every shaking is the heavenly clock marking the final seconds of human history. And those with spiritual eyes can feel it. There is something different in the air. The invisible is moving. The veil between realms is becoming thin, and when it is torn, nothing will ever be the same. The separation has already begun, and it did not come through wars or disasters. It came through revelation. The same God who illuminates also exposes. The fire that purifies is the same fire that reveals who truly remains. The world is divided, and inside the churches the reflection is the same. There are temples full, yet empty of presence. Sermons that comfort, but do not confront. Words that promise victory, but avoid repentance. Men who speak in God's name, but serve their own interests. Jesus had already warned that the wheat and the tares would grow together until the time of the harvest. That time has come, and the harvest has already begun. It is not the enemy who separates. It is the truth. And the truth cuts through appearance, revealing what is real. The lukewarm heart is the most dangerous. It sings about heaven, but loves the world. It speaks of faith, but runs from the cross. It seems safe, yet has already drifted away without noticing. Even so, there is a small group that remains faithful, not by strength, but by conviction. They do not seek recognition or applause. They simply guard what remains of the flame, even when everything looks dark. They are few, almost invisible, but heaven knows them. This is the final division, the one time cannot undo. And when the call comes, it will be too late to choose a side, because whoever has not decided now has already decided. No one will know the moment. No clock will mark the hour. It will happen suddenly, quick, silent, and final. 1 second before, everything will seem normal. People working, cars moving, planes in the air. 1 second later, the entire world will be different. The Bible describes this moment with precision. The Lord shall descend with a shout, with the voice of the archangel and the sound of the trumpet. But the sound that will come will not be heard by human ears. It will be a spiritual vibration, something that will sweep across the planet and separate what belongs to the light from what belongs to the earth. In the blink of an eye, millions will vanish. Bodies will disappear. Souls will be called. Pilots, drivers, fathers, children, all those who are ready will be taken. And what the world will see as tragedy will, in truth, be the fulfillment of the promise Jesus made 2,000 years ago. The rapture is not escape, it is harvest. It is the rescue of those who remained faithful while the world mocked their faith. It is the meeting of the bridegroom with his church. It is the beginning of the kingdom that never ages. As heaven opens, the earth falls into emptiness. The faith of those who departed will leave an absence nothing will ever fill. And the silence that follows will be the sound of time reaching its end. The rapture will not be announced. It will be the first judgment. And those who remain will understand, too late, that the countdown has ended. The silence that followed was not peace. It was absence. The world breathed, but the air felt heavy. Entire cities awoke to the sound of nothing. Cars were left without drivers. Planes fell from the sky. Homes remained open with tables set. Yet no one returned to fill the empty places. For a moment, the whole planet seemed to stop. And then panic began. Governments tried to explain the unexplainable. Theories spread through the media. Religions contradicted one another. But those who truly knew what had happened were no longer here. The light that restrained chaos was removed, and darkness took control. Without the presence that held back evil, the world surrendered to its own shadow. Then a man appeared. He spoke calmly, promised peace, offered stability. He fed people's hunger and fear with gentle words. And the nations followed him, blind, thirsty for hope. But the peace he offered was a trap, and his words were poison. What ancient prophecy had announced now had a face. Then heaven began to close. Earthquakes tore the ground apart. Seas swallowed cities. The stars seemed to fall. Everything John saw in his vision, the world began to live. The plagues described millennia ago took form before human eyes, and the planet, exhausted, bowed under the weight of its own judgment. Even so, among ashes and ruins, there was still a thread of grace. One final chance. Some understood too late. Others, even surrounded by fear and pain, chose to believe. They paid with their bodies what they could once have received through faith. And while the earth burned, heaven remained silent. The age of grace had ended. God's clock had finally stopped. Time has come to an end. Everything that was promise has been fulfilled. Everything that was faith has become memory. The clock has stopped, and what remains now is the echo of the choices each person made. The world continues, but something has changed forever. Those who remained walk among invisible ruins. feeling the absence of something they cannot even name. The sun still rises, the wind still blows, but the presence that gave meaning is no longer here. Because a divine absence weighs more than any disaster. The rapture was not the end. It was the boundary, the moment when eternity touched time and split it in two. On one side, those who were taken by the light. On the other, those who remained in the shadows. And in the middle of that divide, silence. Perhaps true judgment is not punishment, but awareness. The realization, too late, that time was always an invitation. Every second lived was the sound of God's heart calling us back. Now, the countdown is over. The destiny has been fulfilled. And in the space where time stopped, one can still hear, faint and distant, the sound of the Valley of Redemption.